Think about it. When you're younger, financial setbacks are frustrating but recoverable. At 35, a market crash gives you decades to bounce back. But at 60, that same percentage loss could devastate your retirement plans with no time to make up the difference. This isn't about pessimism, it's about clear-eyed realism that most financial advisors won't tell you. What if I told you that the financial advice you've been following your entire life could actually be destroying your wealth after you turn 60? Imagine this. Warren Buffett's right-hand man, Charlie Munger, one of history's greatest investors, revealed a counterintuitive truth that flies in the face of conventional wisdom and could transform your retirement forever. Has this ever happened to you? You've diligently saved for decades, built a respectable nest egg, and then watched in horror as market volatility threatened to erase years of careful planning. That's because traditional financial advice fails to account for a crucial turning point in your wealth-building journey, the moment when time itself transforms from your greatest ally into a potential adversary. The financial media bombards us with the same tired messages as we age: save more, invest more aggressively, take bigger risks to catch up. But what if that's exactly the wrong approach? What if the key to financial security after 60 isn't about finding the next Tesla or Bitcoin, but something far more fundamental? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you think about wealth building in the final chapters of your working life. The shift required is both profound and counterintuitive, moving from playing financial offense to playing disciplined defense. When you're younger, taking calculated risks makes perfect sense. Those are your offensive years. But after 60, the mathematics of recovery change dramatically. A 50% loss doesn't just mean you're down to half your savings. It means you're facing a potential retirement crisis with precious little time to recover. The runway for financial rebuilding shrinks dramatically with each passing year. What you need isn't a hot tip or a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a fundamental paradigm shift in how you approach wealth preservation and growth. The tragedy I've witnessed repeatedly is watching someone in their 60s, feeling the pressure of inadequate savings, make one desperate lunge for financial security through aggressive investments, only to see decades of patient accumulation vanish in months. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. The true danger for investors past 60 isn't underperformance or missing out on the next big thing. It's something far more devastating that few financial advisors will tell you about. It's the risk of catastrophic loss, a distinction that represents a fundamental transformation in perspective that can protect everything you've worked so hard to build. Think about the math for a moment. If you're 60 years old with $500,000 saved and you lose half in a market crash or failed investment, you're not just down to $250,000, you're down to $250,000 with potentially only 5 to 10 working years left to make up the difference. That same 50% loss for a 30-year-old is an entirely different scenario. They might have 30-plus years of earnings, savings, and compounding ahead of them. The impact is dramatically different. Not because the percentage is different, but because the recovery timeline is fundamentally altered. This revelation transforms how we must approach wealth preservation in our 60s and beyond. The hidden truth that sophisticated investors understand is that consistency becomes your most powerful ally. The investor who makes a steady 7 to 9% year after year will ultimately outperform the one who alternates between exhilarating 30% gains and devastating 25% losses. It's not just about the numbers. It's about the psychological journey of wealth building that changes in these golden years. Think about the durability of your financial strategy. Can it withstand market corrections? Can it survive economic downturns? The decisions you make after 60 should prioritize this resilience above all else. Many of us have been conditioned by financial media to fear missing out on the next big thing. This mindset serves the financial industry well, driving commissions, trades, and constant activity, but it rarely serves your retirement security. Now, I want to go even deeper into this critical mindset transformation. After 60, your entire psychology around investing must shift from what I call FOMO, fear of missing out, to FOBO, fear of blowing out. This profound shift doesn't happen automatically. It requires deliberate rewiring of how you perceive investment opportunities and risks. Consider how this transformation affects your everyday financial decisions. When your neighbor brags about a cryptocurrency windfall or your brother-in-law shares his options trading strategy, your internal compass shouldn't spin toward envy or competition. Instead, it should calibrate toward protection and preservation. The journey to true financial independence in your 60s isn't about finding unicorns. It's about building an ark that can weather inevitable storms. Behind the scenes of nearly every financial catastrophe I've witnessed with clients in their 60s and 70s lies the same revelation. The pursuit of outsized returns led them directly into dangerous waters. Their financial stories all share a common thread: the inability to accept good enough returns in pursuit of spectacular ones. The impact of this mindset shift cannot be overstated. It's not just about portfolio construction. It's about fundamentally reimagining your relationship with money at this crucial life stage. This psychological breakthrough often leads to better decision-making and, ironically, better long-term performance. When you embrace consistency over volatility, when you prioritize capital preservation over spectacular gains, you actually position yourself to capture the full power of compound returns without the devastating setbacks that derail so many retirement plans. If you've experienced this shift toward defensive investing in your own financial thinking, write "defense mode activated" in the comments below. The journey to financial security after 60 reveals a paradox that contradicts everything our culture celebrates. While mainstream media glorifies the exciting, the novel, and the disruptive, there's a profound revelation waiting for those brave enough to embrace it. After 60, boring is beautiful. This mindset transformation flies in the face of our sensation-seeking financial culture, but it holds the key to a secure retirement. Consider the fundamental architecture of wealth preservation. The most reliable fortunes aren't built on speculative moonshots or complex trading strategies. They're built on stable, predictable assets that generate consistent returns year after year. The psychological breakthrough comes when you realize that financial excitement in your 60s, 70s, and beyond shouldn't come from watching volatile investments swing wildly. It should come from the freedom and security of having reliable, steady returns that fund the lifestyle you've worked so hard to achieve. I've witnessed this transformation in countless investors. That moment when they realize that sleeping well at night is actually worth more than the possibility of spectacular gains. The hidden truth is that the less thrilling your investment approach after 60, the more thrilling your actual retirement is likely to be. This paradigm shift creates a decision framework that naturally steers you toward more prudent choices aligned with your true life goals. Now, I want to explore what might be the most destructive force in investment psychology after 60. Behind nearly every financial disaster I've analyzed over my career, I've discovered a common pattern, a toxic combination of leverage, complexity, and speculation. Almost all catastrophic financial losses involve some combination of borrowed money, complex Instruments and positions so speculative that even sophisticated investors struggle to fully understand the risks. Think about the anatomy of financial ruin. It rarely comes from simply being in solid investments during a down market. It comes from amplifying those market movements through debt, margin, or derivatives. After 60, these elements might temporarily juice returns, creating the illusion of financial progress. But they dramatically increase your vulnerability to market shocks. Shocks that you no longer have the time horizon to recover from. The revelation here is both beautiful and profound. Financial security isn't about maximizing returns at all costs. It's about optimizing for what I call sleep factor. The ability to rest easy, knowing your financial future isn't hanging by a thread of market volatility or dependent on complex strategies that could implode overnight. The journey toward genuine financial independence requires the wisdom to embrace simplicity when everyone else is chasing complexity. I've seen this pattern repeat with tragic regularity. Sophisticated investors who believed their complex strategies would protect them, only to discover too late that complexity itself was the enemy. If you've experienced the relief that comes from simplifying your financial life and avoiding leverage, write "Simplicity is my shield" in the comments below. Now I want to address perhaps the most destructive force in investment psychology, something Charlie Munger identified that silently destroys more portfolios after age 60 than almost any other factor. Munger brilliantly called envy the dumbest of the 7 deadly sins for a profound reason. It's the only one that provides absolutely no pleasure in return. Think about that revelation for a moment. Greed at least gives you momentary satisfaction. Gluttony offers temporary pleasure. But envy, it delivers nothing but misery. This insight transcends finance and cuts to the heart of human psychology. Portfolios are rarely destroyed by an inability to earn. They're destroyed by the toxic comparison game that drives people to abandon sound strategies when they see others apparently getting rich quicker. This competitive impulse, hardwired into our brains through millennia of evolution, becomes particularly dangerous after 60, when recovery from mistakes becomes increasingly difficult. I've witnessed this pattern repeat with tragic regularity in my practice. The neighbor buys a luxury car. The brother-in-law brags about a crypto windfall. And suddenly, decades of disciplined investing seem inadequate. In these moments of weakness, sound financial foundations are abandoned for speculative gambles that often end in tears. The breakthrough moment comes when you realize that financial independence isn't a competition. Your neighbor's investment returns have precisely zero impact on your ability to achieve your goals. This mental liberation, releasing yourself from the tyranny of comparison, represents one of the most powerful transformations possible in your financial journey after 60. The mindset shift is almost Zen-like in its simplicity, yet profound in its impact. Successful investors past 60 cultivate a remarkable indifference to what others are doing. They develop an inner compass that remains steadfast amid the noise of market euphoria or panic. If you enjoyed this deep dive into wealth building after 60, hit that subscribe button to join our community of thoughtful investors who value long-term financial wisdom over short-term hype. This revelation about envy connects directly to another of Munger's most candid admissions, his profound regret about selling great businesses too soon. With characteristic bluntness, he acknowledged this as one of his biggest financial mistakes. The wisdom here is both simple and revolutionary. When you discover a truly exceptional business, the winning strategy is often breathtakingly simple. Just hold it. Don't overthink it. Don't try to time the market. Don't worry about short-term fluctuations. Just hold. The psychology behind this wisdom reveals a fascinating paradox of human nature. We tend to do exactly the opposite of what serves our financial interests. selling winners too early to lock in gains, while stubbornly clinging to losers, hoping they'll recover. This behavioral pattern is so consistent, it might as well be hardwired into our DNA. The journey to financial wisdom requires recognizing these destructive tendencies and consciously overriding them. I've seen this transformation in clients who finally grasp that patience isn't just a virtue, it's a powerful wealth-building strategy. The decision to simply hold quality investments through market turbulence, economic uncertainty, and the inevitable periods of underperformance represents one of the most profound mindset shifts possible. If you've ever experienced the regret of selling a great investment too soon, type "diamond hands" in the comments to acknowledge this common investing pitfall that even legends like Munger struggled with. This pattern of holding great businesses brings us to another counterintuitive truth that Munger discovered through decades of market observation. The relationship between certainty and accuracy is often inverse. In other words, the louder someone proclaims their market predictions, the more likely they are to be catastrophically wrong. This revelation challenges the very foundation of how most people consume financial information after 60. Think about the pundits and experts you see on financial networks or read in investment newsletters. The ones who speak with unwavering confidence about exactly where interest rates will be next year, precisely which sectors will outperform, or definitively which currencies will strengthen. Munger's observation cuts to the heart of this theatre. Throughout market history, those who sounded most certain were consistently the ones who lost the most money, both for themselves and their followers. The wisdom here transcends investing and touches on a fundamental truth about human knowledge. The world is simply too complex, too interconnected, and too unpredictable for any single mind to fully comprehend. The genuine masters of any domain, whether finance, science, or philosophy, are precisely those who have the deepest appreciation for the limits of their understanding. This humble mindset becomes increasingly valuable after 60, when recovery from overconfident mistakes becomes nearly impossible. This insight leads to a profound awakening in your financial journey. Successful investing isn't about being a know-it-all. It's about the opposite, recognizing what you don't understand and having the discipline to avoid those areas entirely. This intellectual honesty creates a boundary around your financial decisions, keeping you safely within what Munger called your circle of competence. The transformation here is psychological rather than technical. It requires developing something remarkably rare in today's culture, the courage to say, "I don't know." These three simple words, so difficult for many successful people to utter, become a superpower when applied to investment decisions after 60. By acknowledging the limits of your understanding, you naturally avoid betting on nonsense and stick to areas where you can make reasonable judgments. Berkshire Hathaway's investment approach exemplifies this principle perfectly. They understood insurance, so they bought insurance companies. They understood consumer brands like Coca-Cola and See's Candies, so they bought them. And critically, they simply ignored industries they didn't understand, regardless of how trendy or promising they appeared to others. This selective approach saved them from countless disasters over the decades. During the dot-com bubble, they avoided technology stocks not because they thought they were overvalued, though they were, but because Buffett and Munger didn't understand them well enough. They received mockery at the time for missing the opportunity of a lifetime until the bubble burst and their patience was vindicated. The revelation here goes beyond simply avoiding losses. It's about the freedom that comes with abandoning the exhausting pretense of omniscience. Have you experienced the relief that comes from saying, "I don't know," instead of pretending to understand something complex? Type intellectual honesty in the comments if you felt this liberating shift in your own approach to investing or life decisions. The weight lifted when you no longer feel compelled to have an opinion on everything. from Bitcoin to biotech, from interest rates to international politics, creates mental space for deeper thinking in areas where you actually possess insight. This intellectual honesty connects perfectly with another fundamental shift Munger advocates for investors over 60, the transformation from employee thinking to owner thinking. This transformation may sound subtle, but it represents one of the most profound mindset revolutions you can undergo on your wealth-building journey. Most people, even highly educated, successful professionals, spend their entire lives trapped in employee thinking. They optimize for promotions, prestigious titles, corner offices, and perks. They measure success by salary increases and status symbols. There's nothing inherently wrong with career advancement. But Munger points out a brutal truth. Titles don't compound. Ownership does. This revelation illuminates the fundamental difference between the two approaches. Employees focus on looking important and climbing hierarchies. Owners focus on possessing things that generate cash while they sleep. An employee asks, "How do I please my boss?" An owner asks, "Does this make money long-term?" Only one of these questions leads to durable wealth after 60. I've witnessed this breakthrough moment for countless professionals, doctors, lawyers, executives, who suddenly realize they've been playing the wrong game. Despite decades of six-figure incomes, many find themselves with impressive job titles, but minimal assets that work independently of their time and effort. They've been running on an increasingly sophisticated treadmill, but a treadmill nonetheless. The awakening often comes with a startling realization. Even high-income professionals are just a few missed paychecks away from financial pressure if they haven't developed ownership mindsets alongside their careers. This vulnerability becomes increasingly dangerous after 60, when recovery options narrow dramatically. The ownership revolution that Munger describes isn't about quitting your job tomorrow. It's about redirecting your energy and capital toward assets that outlast your active working years. Now, I want to explore Munger's most distilled wisdom, what he described as the critical habits that protected his wealth more than any brilliant investment move. With characteristic bluntness, he reduced his success formula to 3 simple subtractions: avoiding debt, avoiding drama, and avoiding dumb people. The power in this framework lies in its emphasis on prevention rather than action. Debt acts as a magnifier of mistakes, transforming recoverable errors into financial catastrophes. Drama wastes precious mental energy that could otherwise be directed toward clear thinking and rational decision-making. And dumb people, by which Munger means those who are reckless, dishonest, unreliable, or addicted to shortcuts, create a form of social contagion that inevitably affects your own judgment. What's remarkable about this triad is how it contradicts conventional wisdom about wealth building. Most financial advice focuses on what to do, which stocks to buy, which strategies to employ, which opportunities to seize. Munger's approach inverts this completely, suggesting that what you don't do matters far more than what you do, especially after 60. Has this distinction between employee thinking and owner thinking created an aha moment for you? Type ownership mindset in the comments if you've been contemplating this crucial transformation in your own financial journey. This revelation about prevention creates a decision framework based on subtraction rather than addition, on removing negative influences rather than constantly seeking positive ones. The impact of this approach becomes increasingly profound after 60, when the margin for error shrinks dramatically. A single misstep with leveraged investments or a toxic business partnership can erase decades of careful wealth building with insufficient time to recover. Now, I want to illuminate another critical revelation about the mathematical reality that governs all financial outcomes. It's a truth so fundamental that most people overlook it entirely. The revelation that often surprises even Sophisticated investors is how powerful steady compounding becomes over 15 plus years. A reliable 7% return, consistently achieved and reinvested, doubles your money approximately every decade. This means that with just 15 years of patience, your capital can grow by 2.8 times without taking extraordinary risks. This mathematical reality reveals something profound about wealth building after 60. The frantic pursuit of spectacular returns often leads to precisely the kind of catastrophic mistakes that destroy capital. Meanwhile, the patient investor who achieves reasonable, consistent returns ends up substantially wealthier simply by avoiding those errors and letting time work its magic. The transformation happens when you shift your focus from the daily noise of market movements to the powerful long-term trend of compound growth. This perspective shift creates a remarkable sense of calm in your financial journey. The daily financial headlines become less urgent, the market's short-term gyrations less concerning. You develop the emotional resilience to stay the course when others panic, because you understand the underlying mathematical reality. I've witnessed this inner revolution in countless investors who finally grasp the genuine power of compounding. They stop chasing the latest hot stock tip or investment fad. They abandon the exhausting pursuit of timing market tops and bottoms. Instead, they construct robust portfolios of quality assets. And then, this is the crucial part, they simply let them work. The mathematical reality that governs all financial outcomes is brutally straightforward. If you don't spend less than you earn, no investment strategy on earth can save you. This truth transcends sophistication, education, and income level. People with seven-figure salaries routinely end up broke in retirement because they consistently live beyond their means. Meanwhile, modest earners with disciplined spending habits often retire in comfort because they understood and respected this fundamental arithmetic. Munger's observation here illuminates a profound disconnect in financial education. We obsess over investment returns, asset allocation, and market timing, while often ignoring the behavioral foundation that makes wealth accumulation possible in the first place. The journey to financial independence begins not with clever stock picking, but with the radical act of living below your means, consistently and without exception. The transformation happens when you realize that every dollar not spent becomes a soldier in your financial army, working tirelessly to produce more dollars through investment returns. If you've experienced this fundamental shift in perspective, recognizing that financial freedom starts with spending discipline rather than investment brilliance, drop arithmetic works in the comments. This compounding effect creates a virtuous cycle that accelerates over time, but it cannot begin without the discipline to resist. Unnecessary consumption. The math is unforgiving. Someone who earns $250,000 but spends $260,000 is getting poorer regardless of their sophisticated investment strategy. Someone who earns $60,000 but consistently invests $12,000 will inevitably build wealth over time. This revelation often comes as an uncomfortable awakening, especially for high-income professionals who've grown accustomed to lifestyle inflation. The realization that impressive salaries don't automatically translate to financial security can be jarring. Now, I want to explore how this fundamental arithmetic combines with a deeper philosophical stance to create genuine financial independence after 60. The ability to live below your means isn't just about basic financial discipline. It represents a profound philosophical stance toward life itself. When you consistently spend less than you earn, you're making a radical declaration of independence from the consumption treadmill that traps so many people, particularly as they approach retirement age. This discipline becomes even more crucial after 60, when your peak earning years may be behind you, and the runway for recovery from financial mistakes gets shorter. The transformation occurs when you realize that true wealth isn't measured by what you spend, but by the gap between what you earn and what you spend. This gap creates the foundation for everything else in your financial life. I've witnessed remarkable journeys of people who embrace this principle even late in life. One client, a physician who had spent decades living up to and slightly beyond his considerable income, had a revelation at 62. He realized that despite earning millions over his career, he had shockingly little to show for it. The awakening was painful but ultimately liberating. He dramatically restructured his lifestyle, eliminating status purchases and unnecessary luxuries without sacrificing genuine quality of life. Within just 4 years, this new approach transformed his financial landscape completely. The psychological freedom that came with building genuine financial security proved far more satisfying than the temporary pleasures of conspicuous consumption. His revelation captures the essence of Munger's wisdom. The journey to financial independence begins not with sophisticated investment strategies, but with the courage to live differently than most people around you. This countercultural stance requires genuine independence of mind. In a world that constantly encourages more spending, more upgrading, more status seeking, choosing a different path demands both clarity of purpose and strength of character. The revelation here transcends mere finance. It touches on the deeper question of what constitutes a well-lived life, especially in our later years. As we reflect on these principles, it becomes clear that the greatest obstacles to financial security after 60 aren't technical but psychological. The battle isn't fought primarily in the marketplace but in the mirror. The principles that lead to financial security aren't complicated or mysterious. They don't require advanced degrees or sophisticated financial instruments. They require something far more challenging, the emotional discipline to follow common-sense guidelines even when everyone around you is doing the opposite. This insight reveals perhaps the most profound truth about wealth building after 60. The distinction between simple and easy lies at the heart of Munger's philosophy. The principles are intellectually simple, but implementing them consistently in the face of market volatility, peer pressure, and our own psychological weaknesses, that's anything but easy. If you've recognized this fundamental truth in your own financial journey, type "mirror battle" in the comments to acknowledge this often overlooked dimension of wealth building. The wisdom Munger shares creates a framework for financial security that transcends market cycles and economic conditions. It's an approach that works not just in bull markets or bear markets, but across all markets and all conditions. As we wrap up our exploration of these timeless principles, I'm struck by how counterintuitive yet profoundly simple his advice really is. The journey to financial security after 60 isn't about financial acrobatics or chasing the next big thing. It's about patience, discipline, and avoiding the catastrophic mistakes that can derail decades of effort. Munger's legacy isn't just the billions he accumulated alongside Warren Buffett. It's the practical philosophy he distilled from nearly a century of observing human behavior in the face of financial temptation. His message resonates because it addresses not just our portfolios but our psychology, the real battlefield where financial independence is won or lost. If you found value in these insights today, I hope you'll join our community of thoughtful investors by hitting that subscribe button below. We're building something special here, a space where we can explore these transformative ideas together, away from the noise and hype of mainstream financial media. If you've made it to the end of this journey with me today, type "Wealth Wisdom Activated" in the comments. Your perspective might help someone else who's navigating these same waters, and I personally read every comment. And if this message resonated with you, that little thumbs up does more than you might think. It helps these ideas Reach others who might benefit from this countercultural approach to building wealth after 60. I've prepared another video that explores how to actually implement some of these principles in today's market environment. It's the perfect companion to what we've discussed today. Click right here and let's continue the conversation. After all, as Munger himself might say, the journey to financial wisdom isn't a sprint. It's a lifelong marathon best run with good company.